Today we are continuing our review on Ted Dekker's series. We'll be diving into 33 AD this time. Let us go ahead and open it up. So just like with all these reviews we have done, we'll be giving away a free book towards the end of this video. I'll give you the details on that. But first of all, I want to congratulate Keel on winning a copy of AD 30 that we gave away last month.
We return to Maviah, the Arabian princess who has lost her kingdom in the first book, AD 30. Here, 3 years later, while she pines for the release of her loved Judah from prison, she has taken the orphans of war under her wing. She considers one orphan in particular as her son. His name is Talia, which means lamb in their language. In the last book, she traveled with her companions to Israel, where they met a teacher named Yeshua. She and her companion Saba teach the children what Yeshua has taught them. With his words of wisdom, he opened her eyes, giving her the strength and insight to compel kings and queens to give her a chance for survival in the unforgiving desert. But when her growing power threatens the surrounding rulers, they set out to crush all she loves, leaving her reeling as a slave once more. She must find Yeshua to save her people. But when she does, she will be horrified to discover that he faces his own death.
Okay, so this is what to expect from this book as far as the content in it. John Newton, is there anything that stood out to you?
The violence that you see in this book, more than the first one. And not so much anything with language, not so much anything with sexual content or anything like that. It was really quite brutal, as it would have been back in that time and in these conditions. But it would have pushed the rating up. I mean, if this is on the big screen, I'd say it'd be R rating.
Okay, so my personal reactions on this book is not favorable. I think there was a lot of mistakes done from a literary standpoint. Adding this extra kid in, which we're supposed to immediately be attached to right off the bat, really didn't appeal to me. On top of that, they're inconsistent with their main character. They really are. This is a very different character from the last one. The teachings of Jesus that they focus on here, again, he continues batting on the God doesn't judge train. Again, completely ignoring the fact that Jesus is the judge of the world, completely ignoring any part of that. In this book, they are also focusing on that Jesus is a complete pacifist, that no violence is acceptable in any way, shape, or form, that you must forgive completely and just completely ignore anyone's past, must wipe clean. In fact, I would say that although the book focuses on a violent act as being the catalyst for the major issues that have come up in this book, I would say it isn't that. It's actually the fact that there was a lack of discernment and a lack of judgment as far as it comes to a couple of the characters.
I didn't like this one as much as I did the first book, mainly because some of the theology felt like it was forced going into the story. It felt like the theology and philosophy was driving the story instead of the story driving itself, letting the characters do what they need to do. I would agree that there is an abrupt change with where Judah was in the first book, without giving any spoilers, and where his position in the second one, and how she changes her love in this. Talia, the child, was good as, I think, a method to do some teaching and show, but some of the things that they learned and understood, some of the levels of theology, they were more advanced than the disciples were at that time, in terms of their understanding of theology and the whole thing. And Jesus, at the end, tells her great truths, basically quotes Romans and different epistles, that teachings of Paul that he wouldn't have, that weren't understood at that period, which were fine. Jesus can speak that and everything, but it seems a little out of character with the character of Jesus to put that all right there in front of him at that point. Very, very deep theology. But in terms of people learning, in terms of people gleaning some of those truths, okay, cool. Let's go with that. The biggest thing that I would agree with you on this is that they say that Jesus does not judge, the Father does not judge. And that's not true. We're not to judge because he does. And there should be discernment, and there should be a lot of forgiveness. I think I disagree with you a little bit on that we should have a life full of not judging the other person, but if someone has caused offense and shows a pattern of untrustworthiness, we don't just go ahead and give them a position of power or put them in a position where they can hurt somebody again until they earn that trust again. That was a big problem that was a big issue that caused problems in the story.
Yeah, I think that's where she really failed in early on in the book, and that causes all the issues. Although, again, the author tries to paint it as someone else causing the issues. In my mind, it is her going on this absolute and complete forgiveness and then puts this individual in a seat of power where he could cause some serious damage. And lo and behold, he does. So, John Newton, who is this for?
Well, there is some good theology there. I think there is at the end, when Jesus talks to them, there is some good theology. If you put aside the whole thing about Jesus doesn't judge, I think it would be a good point to talk to someone about, but I wouldn't really necessarily present this to say, hey, this is it, guys. This is the whole thing. It can spur some discussion, and you can talk about that. But be very careful, I guess, in suggesting who receives this book and be able to have a discussion with the person afterwards to show the balance and everything.
Personally, I would not recommend this book to anyone, just because of how emphatic he is about this being Jesus' teaching that you have to be extreme pacifist. You have to not judge or condemn, and the Father doesn't judge, and Jesus doesn't judge. No one judges anyone. That is the real message, I'd say, in this book, and I would not agree with that.
Yeah, there's a point to judgment. If you say there's no judgment at all, first of all, you have to make the distinction between judging someone and judging something, an action. If there is no judgment at all, then there shouldn't be any ratings at all given for the book. You can't go on Amazon or another distributor and say, hey, I'm going to give this a 5-star rating because you just judged the book. You can also not say, hey, to your child, you did well, because that's a judgment. I believe that's not true. I mean, we can do that. We can praise our children when they do something right, and we can tell them when they're doing something wrong. That is a moral judgment. But we also need to balance that with saying, looking at their actions that they're doing and say, oh, they're just a terrible person, not knowing everything behind the story. And that's where we need to kind of tap on the brakes. And that's where God ends up being the ultimate judge, because he sees the big picture. He knows everything, and he's the one who created us and created the laws to begin with.
And I agree with you. But unfortunately, Ted Dekker really does not make that distinction. And unfortunately, this really trends towards progressive Christianity in that regard. So since we normally do give a copy of the book that we're reviewing away, well, this time I'm not recommending it, so I'm not going to give a free copy of this book away. I will give a free copy of a different book, The Critical Quran, and I will tell you how to get that.
Wait. You're giving away I thought you were a Christian, dude. Why are you giving away a Quran? I don't understand this.
Oh, the Critical Quran gives you the history and the explanation around the Quran. This is critical for anyone who is doing apologetics or reaching out to a Muslim at all from a Christian perspective. It puts it into a new light, giving you the resources you need in order to be successful in that endeavor. So how you win a copy of the Critical Quran is just like any of the other book reviews that we have done and the book giveaways. You just need to like, subscribe, and go down into the comment section, find the link, and go sign up for John's newsletter. So since we're wrapping up this series on Ted Dekker's books that we've been doing, we went ahead and did a poll in the community tab. If you know me at all, I post in that community tab pretty often. And I use polls, and that really drives a lot of this stuff. So I wanted to know from you guys, out of 4 different books, which ones you guys need a review on. And it seems that Fahrenheit 451 is our next review. So that one's a bit more of a political book. So we will have to see what we come down to on that one.
Does somebody have a book report they have due that they need to do this on?
I don't know. They probably don't want to do it on our review, considering it's from a Christian perspective, but we'll find out.